The UFC has always said that it's about the best fighting the best.
Simple things like, you know, the best fight the best. How about that?
They claim to be for the fans. The fights that the fans want to see is what they get, according to Dana White. So why is Jon Jones, who openly says he has no plans of fighting anytime soon and refuses to fight the interim champ, allowed to keep his belt? It's time to strip Jon Jones. In this video, we're going to take a look at the petition to strip Jon Jones that now has over 125,000 signatures. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. Over 125,000 fans have signed a change.org petition demanding Jon Jones be stripped of the UFC heavyweight title. The description of the petition says Jon Jones is now the longest reigning champion in UFC heavyweight history and has only fought 2 times in that period. There is a clear interim champion, Tom Aspinall, who has defended his interim championship belt. Aspinall is ready to fight Jones. Jones refuses to fight him. Therefore, we as fans must let Dana White know it is time to strip Jon Jones of the heavyweight title. He clearly has no intentions of fighting anytime soon. And the petition starter is Tony Has Died, who is actually a meme page that I follow. How about that? And this description is 100% right. The UFC says it's about the best versus the best, but they're protecting a guy that won't fight. It's time for this hypocrisy to come to an end. Let's talk about what a champion actually looks like. Tom Aspinall saved UFC 295 after Jon Jones pulled out and knocked out Sergey Pavlovich in the first round, who at the time was the most feared fighter in that division. Then he defended his interim belt against a surging Curtis Blades. No tune-up fights, no easy fights, didn't want to sit out and wait for Jon Jones. Went and defended an interim belt before the undisputed champ had defended his belt. He's been sitting out since last July. He got a knockout in the first round. He's healthy. He's begging for a fight. But Jon Jones, silent, delaying, dodging, trolling in comment sections, doing God knows what in Thailand. And this is something that I've said for months now, is that Jon Jones just wants to keep the world heavyweight champion active, you know, that title attached to his name, because all of these shows he gets booked for, sponsorships that he gets, you know, endorsement deals and all that, and meet and greets, all those different events, those checks are a lot bigger when you're the active UFC undisputed heavyweight champion as opposed to former and retired. Meanwhile, Tom Aspinall, who's the actual active champ, got all of us hyped today saying heavyweight news just to announce a merch collab with Champion. The heavyweight division is literally at such a critical point. We have about 25 to 30 heavyweights on the roster. Only about 10 of them are actually talented and athletic, but the rest of them are just fat guys that should be at 205 and they're just out of shape. The division is starving for something, and Jon Jones is actively keeping it all on ice. And the UFC is honestly losing its identity, and this is where I get pissed. The UFC built its reputation on essentially being anti-boxing. The best fight the best, no ducking fights, no champions in different promotions that can't fight each other. The UFC was built on we make the fights that the fans want to see and the best fight the best. And now they're letting Jon Jones hold the heavyweight belt hostage, essentially just because of Dana White's nostalgia for like the good old days with Jon Jones in his prime. And as the champion, you're essentially representing the division, and that's not what Jon Jones is doing. He's stalling it, and he's essentially killing the UFC heavyweight division. And that's why 125,000 people verified have signed to have him stripped of the heavyweight title. I mean, if we're being honest, Tom Aspinall is not the future of the heavyweight division. He is the now of the heavyweight division. And if Dana White and the UFC actually wanted to do what's best for the sport, Jon Jones would be stripped today. And that's the thing. This fight will happen this year. We had Jon trying to fight Alex Pereira up until he lost to Ankalaev. And really, guys, if this fight ever happens, and at this point, very iffy, but if it happens, it'll be at like UFC 322 in November at Madison Square Garden. If it doesn't happen then, we're never going to see it. And at this point, I'm leaning towards Jon is just retired and he just doesn't want to say it because like I said, all of these other business opportunities are a lot more lucrative and a lot more often if he's the active heavyweight champion of the world. And really, we just have Dana White hanging on to this nostalgic, he's the best fighter of all time. And the reason that I think this is is because Dana White wants the UFC to have their Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Tom Brady, like that GOAT type of fighter, because they don't have a good relationship with GSP. GSP retired multiple times, but retired kind of early. Dana White got mad at him. Not really in a great place with the UFC since his retirement. A lot of other legends also not in a good place with Dana and the UFC in their retirement. Jon Jones is their guy where they can say he never lost. He was the greatest of all time. And that's like their GOAT, essentially, where they can all, everybody agrees Jon Jones. But then you have, GSP and Demetrius Johnson get just tossed aside. And they basically just consider Jon Jones and Anderson Silva a lot of the time. Or Khabib. The fact that Khabib gets mentioned as one of the GOATs is crazy to me. And I really don't understand why they want Jon Jones. If they have to have like a Michael Jordan or a LeBron, that's the GOAT of the sport, why does it have to be Jon Jones? I mean, the UFC worked so hard and so long for years to break that it's just human cockfighting. It's too violent for a mainstream fan base. They worked for years. Dana White used to say, oh yeah, these guys graduated from college. They're this, that, they're the other, trying to show that they're more than just dumb cage fighters, because that's what the perception was for a very long time. So Dana does all that work to build up the UFC into something respectable and change the like typical idea of a cage fighter, just to throw that all aside to cater to Jon Jones's ego, who has tested positive for PEDs, tested positive for cocaine, been arrested multiple times for all types of violent things, hit a pregnant woman in a hit and run car crash, got banned from his gym at one point for domestic violence against his wife, arrested for domestic violence right after his Hall of Fame induction. And that wasn't even that long ago. That was like 2022. And somehow he's still Dana White and the UFC's golden boy. I don't get it. And at this point, to me, I know money runs the whole operation. So Jon Jones, being one of the bigger stars in the sport, is financially good for the UFC, especially because the mainstream casual fan base follows like the UFC narrative. And that's why you have the mainstream casual fans that think you're like a hater if you think Jon Jones should get stripped, or if you mention any of Jon Jones's outside of the cage issues. Now, at some point, you got to stop giving them like second, third, fifth, 10th chances. A champion fights, a champion defends, and Jon Jones isn't doing either of those things. Over 125,000 people agree that it's time to move on from Jon Jones. The UFC truly cares about its fans and about its own message that it was built on. They'll strip Jon Jones and give the division back to someone who actually wants to fight. What happened to the famous clip of Dana White putting an Islam Makhachev quote on the wall at the PI about how a champion fights anybody? What happened to that? This doesn't apply to Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall is doing everything right. Jon Jones is doing everything wrong. Let me know if you've signed the petition in the comments. I'll have it linked in the description down below because I've signed it. Enough is enough. Strip Jon Jones. Did you like this video? Then like and subscribe down below. I also do multiple live streams per week, along with behind the scenes content and members only live streams for our channel members. So become a channel member for access to bonus content. It's only $5 per month and it greatly helps the channel's growth. I also do a podcast with my best friend Bo, and I have a non-MMA channel as well called Wyatt's World. You can check both of those out linked below.